Hello everyone and welcome to this evening's webinar. Thank you for tuning in. The more observant of you may have noticed that I'm not Abby Clark. Unfortunately she couldn't be with us this evening, so I will be your host, your Philip Schofield for the night. My name is Tom Cole. I'm the Graduate Recruitment Officer for Oxford University and also a 2012 Ambassador. I am delighted to be joined on my red sofa this evening by Rachel Arthur and by Sam Ulmer, who I will give the opportunity to introduce themselves momentarily. But first of all, just to talk to you a little bit about the format of this evening. This is a real chance for you guys to ask any questions you might have to both of our panelists about their experience on the programme, about what they're doing now, about the challenges they faced, and also to find out a bit more what it is like teaching in one of our schools. Before we do that, I just want to talk to you a little bit about why it is that we're here. Obviously, we're all here as Teach First participants and ambassadors. And the real issue that we're facing in education in this country is that our system currently remains divided. In this country, how well you do in education is not defined by how hard you work, but about how much your parents earn. And this disparity is more evident in STEM subjects than in any other. Currently in this country, 62% of students who are eligible for free school meals fail to achieve a minimum C grade, and 58% fail to meet it in maths. This is leading to a shortfall of 40,000 STEM graduates every year, which is going to have a huge knock-on impact on our country, both in terms of our economy and many other areas as well, medicine, whatever you like. More specifically to this evening's session, there has been a 60% decline in students studying ICT and computing at secondary school since 2003, despite this being a major concerted area of focus by the government in that time period. Ultimately, our vision is that no child's education is limited by their socioeconomic background, and in order to do that, we're trying to get outstanding people like yourselves into the classroom. Now, I'd like to just pass over to our panelists now, who have been through and have gone through this process. So, if Rachel, would you mind introducing yourself to her?
So I'm Rachel Arthur. I'm a 2012 ambassador now. I taught computer science, IT, and a little bit of business in Carmanor Community School in Leeds, and I now work for PwC in cybersecurity.
I'm Sam Ulmer. I am a 2013 participant, so currently 3/4 of the way through the programme. I teach in a school in West London called the Dire Martyrs Catholic School, and I teach computer science and ICT, and I'm currently in charge of computing at my school.
Thanks very much, guys. We're now going to start taking questions from the audience. So I've got a few that have come in so far. My first question we'll go. Who should go? Rachel first. From Rachel. What were your main motivations for applying to the LDP, the Leadership Development Programme?
When I finished uni, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, and I'd always considered teaching as an option. And when I heard about Teach First, I thought this is a really good opportunity to spend 2 years giving something a go, finding out more about whether it's something I enjoy or whether it isn't, and what impact I could have in the classroom. And the area that I'm from, originally there was a lot of deprivation, so it really fit in with the mission of Teach First to address educational disadvantage. So it's something I really believed in, and it gave me an opportunity to try teaching. And I really liked that it was sort of a 2-year programme, because then I could have a think about it, give it a go, and make decisions about what I wanted to do from there.
Fantastic. Same question to you, Sam. What motivated you to apply?
Well, I think, to be in a position where you want to consider it, someone must have told you at some point that you could be a good teacher. I think that helps. But studying computer science, I'm really, really enjoying and engaged with my subject content. But I find when you think of industry, and if you went into programming or something like that, it could be a very monotonous and the same process over and over again. And so I think the reason, one of the main things that drew me into teaching is this kind of every day is going to be different. Every year you've got new students, there's changes in the curriculum, and so that will help make every day sort of different, and therefore you'll be more inclined to enjoy your job.
Brilliant. I think actually, interestingly, what we tend to find with a lot of applicants, like I say, is that it's people who love their subjects but don't want to, I guess, be in that environment. You get to talk about it all the time, but not sort of doing the job. But I think you're right, Rachel, in the sense that a lot of people also, you want to try out teaching if you don't know it's for you, and you might do it and love it, or you might do it and go, and work for PwC or whatever else afterwards. But it's having that chance to kind of find out, I suppose. Did you have any concerns before starting the program, Rachel?
Oh, loads. I was such a stress head before I joined. Like, my family and friends will completely vouch for that. Like, I remember going in, because I don't know if these guys know, but before you do the program, you have to go into school to do, I think it was 4 or 5 days in the classroom, so go and like reconnect with what it's like to actually be a teacher. And I remember sitting at the back and looking at the teacher at the front, thinking, how has she just got them all to be quiet? How do you harness that power? And when I first started, I remember standing in front of the classroom and doing the countdown for the first time, thinking, is this magical counting down from 5 to 1 going to actually make this room full of children be quiet? And it did. It was a really bizarre moment. But yeah, loads of worries. I was really concerned about my subject knowledge because my undergrad degree was in IT, not computer science. So I was really worried about that. And I was worried about, in general, being in charge of young people's lives for an hour a week. I was concerned about that.
And how did you find the support? Because I know one of the concerns a lot of the people on the program have is that often they're teaching IT or computing from A levels rather than having studied at a degree level. So what kind of support was offered for you to kind of help you with that?
Oh, well, so over the summer there was loads of support. So we had the returning participants from the previous year come back to help us, and they gave us so many resources and lessons. We had to go planning lessons together. The tutor, who was from, is she from the Institute of Education? She was awesome. Like, she gave us so much support, and she was like a subject area expert, so she was there just to purely support us. But the biggest area of support I had over my time was the network that I built with the current, with my 2012 participants who were also doing IT and computer science, because we sort of learned together and shared resources. But for anyone who is worried about subject knowledge, just please don't be, because I really hope none of my pupils are watching this. I taught GCSE computer science, and I was literally learning the subject knowledge the night before. And I was like, what's the difference between RAM and ROM? Like, I couldn't remember, and I was like literally learning it the night before. And I know you did a degree in computer science, so it's slightly different for you, but it's fine. And it was really good because it forced me to learn about an area that I'm now working in, and I wouldn't have got the job I have now if I hadn't done that. So it was, I really enjoyed it.
Brilliant. Did you have any kind of different concerns, Sam? I don't know if yours were kind of around the same, around some subject knowledge.
I think, one of the biggest concerns is the way the Teach First program works. So I think you're going to talk about this later, John. But the way it works is that you don't know your school until you're placed there. And so I guess there's a bit of nervousness about where you're going to be placed, what the people in the school are going to be like. People look at, the ratings of the school, what people think of the school. But, I think that's part of the challenge. And I wouldn't be placed in West London and meeting the people that I've met had I gone into a job where I went somewhere where it was safe and I knew people and stuff like that. So I think that's something that, again, people are concerned with. But, there are lots of advantages to being placed in lots of areas. I know people who are placed in Yorkshire and Humber or West Midlands. Some people might say, well, that's out of the way. But at the same time, they make really tight bonds and relationships with the people in their cohort because, they're the people they know in that area. I think in terms of subject knowledge, just building what Rachel said, I think now, especially with the change towards computer science in the curriculum, there are lots of people and lots of organisations, CAS, a charity organisation, all of these people who are constantly, trying to train people and innovate. And I think your school would hopefully be very supportive of that as well. So subject knowledge is something you shouldn't be concerned about. There are lots of people within Teach First and outside who are, supporting people with that.
Definitely, and I mean, I know I taught history, having done a history degree, but actually, I was studying Dark Age history and sort of things like that when I was at university. It had nothing to do with any of the curriculum at all when I got to school. Yeah. So I was having to relearn the civil rights movement to teach my AS level class I went. So actually, almost whatever you taught, there are different bits you're going to have to pick up.
Yeah, you need to learn the pedagogy to teach the subject. Science people especially say they become so niche when they do it at a degree level that when they come back to GCSE, they have to learn general science to teach all the subjects. Everyone goes for a learning curve, and learning how to teach it and pitch it at the right level is obviously, you know, one of the processes you have to go through as you develop as a teacher.
Brilliant, great, thanks, Sam. What did you find most challenging, Rachel, about the programme? And we'll go with most rewarding as well. Challenging and rewarding, so you have a good and a bad.
Oh God. Challenging, I think it was a complete juggling act over the 2 years. So especially in your first year when you're trying to get your essays in. So through the first year of the programme, you're faced with the classroom for the first time, and during the holidays, you're trying to write your essays for your PGC qualification, and juggling, do I write my essay first or plan my year 7 lesson, was like a difficult act. And you know, it's like learning to drive a car. When you first get in a car, you're thinking like mirror, signal, maneuver, and trying to get all those things in the right order at the right time. And it's that moment when you realise, and I think for most people it's around Christmas time, like, oh my God, I've got so far to go. But I think before I'd done Teach First, I'd always been like, I'd done quite well in school and in my exams and stuff, and I think it was good for me to have that challenge and think, right, okay, I know how far I've got to go, I know where I need to go with this, and all the support that you have around you really helps with that.
And so that was your biggest challenge then, was juggling everything. What was the most rewarding thing?
The kids, like everyone does it for kids. There's children who I've been out of the classroom since September, and I still hear from their families now. One of the families came down to visit me during the holidays, and just the fact that you know that for some of those kids you've had a major impact on their lives and maybe changed their mind about computing or IT and made them. I firmly believe that computing is a route out for a lot of our pupils that are from severely deprived backgrounds, and a lot of people that have just arrived in the UK from war-torn areas of the world, like Somalia. They've experienced deprivation that on a scale that I can't imagine, and the fact that I've had an opportunity to work with them and sit with them every single week and support them to get some qualifications and to be the one person that will be there for them and stand up for them, then that's a gift, that's a pleasure for me to be involved in that, not the other way around. So yeah, those relationships I still miss them so much all the time.
Thanks, Rachel. Same to you then, Sam. Biggest challenge, biggest reward.
It sounds funny. I think one of the biggest challenges for me is coming in the position you come in. It's kind of, you come in with fresh eyes, and you know, following on from Teach First Vision, you kind of want to change the world in a way. You know, you want to change what happens at school. You see things and you sort of feel unjust that they are happening. And I guess, you know, the challenge is how do you go about when you know, arrive at school trying to implement those things. You know, is it going to be, oh, I'm going to run an after school club, or in my case, you know, was it I'm going to push computer science in my department so the kids can actually study it. And I think you know, some people, you know, they can come away feeling, you know, like, oh, this is not fair, or you know, something should be done. And I think it's just going about and working out how you can still impact in a positive way with some of the constraints you might find in your particular placement at school. In terms of reward, I think one of the biggest rewards for me is having kids that will purposefully come and find you just to talk to you, or to, you know, share something that's happened in their day-to-day lives, not necessarily linked to your subject at all, but just, you know, kids, you know, seeing you as someone that, you know, they get on with and they are inspired to talk to, or, you know, because computer science kids who, you know, want to try and do computer science even though it's hard because, you know, they like the subject and you've engaged them in education.
That's brilliant, thanks, Sam. Then let's get specific, because everyone likes a good anecdote. So go on then, Rachel. What was your favourite moment whilst on the programme?
So I had a pupil, I'm not going to mention any names,
Please don't. We're live.
Who caused me nightmares, sleepless nights for the first year of my teaching. And he was in a class, my year 10 class, and the whole class were a nightmare, but he in particular was a nightmare. And he used to arrive at my lessons regularly and refused to come in, just hated the idea of me and computer science, and the combination of that was like his idea of how. And I was like, what can I do to make this boy like me? And I even tried to like find out what his favourite football team was. I looked so fake. I went and watched him play football, and I was like, this is a bit wrong. I don't think I should be here watching year 10 boys play football. This is all got really weird. But I was like, right, I need to get there in the end. And I found out when I got my timetable for my second year of teaching that I had this class again. And I was like, oh my God, please don't do it. And I went to my head of department at the time. I was like, please don't give me this class again. I can't do another year of this. But I got them again. And this people was like, oh, you're still here? I was like, yes, I am still here. And he was like, I thought I'd have made you quit by now. Everyone else has. And I was like, and he had gone through quite a lot of teachers during his school career. And he was really surprised. I think that second year, the fact that I was back ready to greet him at that door, still smiling, he was like, Miss, I don't know why you're still being nice to me. I've been so horrible to you. And then the dreaded Ofsted arrived, sort of 3 or 4 weeks into term in the second year. And that is like every teacher's nightmare, the day Ofsted come. It's really stressful. And I remember looking at my timetable and thinking, year 7 will be fine, I'll do what I say. Year 8 will be fine, I'll do what I say. Year 11, oh my God, it's that class. And honestly, they've never behaved so well in their lives. Oh. And the Ofsted inspector walked in and I was like, oh God, I can't believe that this is happening. Like, why are they doing this to me? Why have they picked this class? And he went and sat next to this people, and I thought, oh God, he's gonna throw me under the bridge now. That's it. It's all gonna be my lesson was going from a 1 to a 4 in a matter of seconds. And the Ofsted inspector said, what do you think of Miss Arthur's lessons? And he was like, well, she puts up with me. And he said, the Ofsted inspector said, you know, do you enjoy the class? And he said, I don't know why. Oh no, she does my head in, sir. And he said, oh, why? And he said, because she's the one that will always pick me up on like the little problems and make sure that my uniform's sorted and pick up on the little things. And I was like, yes, that's
so happy.
Yeah, I know, it was. It was amazing. And I was like, oh my God, you know, oh my goodness, thank goodness that I thought, what is he going to say to this Ofsted inspector? But the fact that class really, I appreciate the amount of effort that I put in over those 2 years. But B saw me as somebody that was going to be there for them, and I wasn't going to let them get away with anything. And they knew that I really cared. Like that was an amazing moment, and I never thought I'd get there with them. So yeah.
Oh, that's really nice. Thank you. Sam, what about yours? That was really heartwarming.
Yeah. You've got to be there.
I can go for the selfish personal glory of when I scored an absolute worldie against the sixth formers. and I've left a legacy on the school as the best goal that some of the teachers have ever seen in any capacity of football. In an educational, less self-involved context, it's probably I taught year 10 students ICT in year 10, but they did it in 1 year. And so generally I did the exam portion of the course, and the results were really, really good. But you know, what was amazing is that it was at a time when computer science, you know, was it going to come and was it not? And the reason that most of those students are studying computer science at year 11 is because they actually campaigned and petitioned to the senior leadership team for them to be able to study computer science in year 11. And so sort of that, it just, you know, it just makes you glad that you've had an impact so much that kids actually want to, you know, push themselves and study your subject. You know, I think when it comes to options, you know, sometimes kids will choose the one because of their favourite teacher or because it's the one they find easier. So to have people, you know, almost put trust in you as well, because, you know, they've never studied computer science and they knew it was going to be hard, but they still, regardless, wanted to do it and learn from it. And I think that was probably one of, you know, the best moments I've had. I've had a lot. I think it's hard to just be, you know, what's one moment where, you know, on your day-to-day basis, yes, there can be hard times, but generally there's always something in your day that you can look back on positively.
I think that's what we always say, is that, you know, a lot of people talk about the programme being very, very challenging, but actually it's always keeping in mind the fact that it is incredibly rewarding, and good things happen all the time, difficult things happen as well, but actually there's a reason that so many people do it, and that it's, you know, it because it does give you so much.
You wouldn't get the reward without the challenge.
Yeah, well, that is a really good point. Thank you. So I think this one's probably more for Rachel's, considering you've now sort of moved on. Sorry, Sam. That's finally. So, how do you think that the leadership development program has helped you to get where you are today? And maybe you'd actually just like to talk a little bit about what you do as well first. That'd be really helpful.
So I work at PwC in cybersecurity. So I work with a number of different clients globally. I'm really lucky. I get to travel all over the world. I work with loads of different people, and I think a big thing that Teach First is, well, number one, I wouldn't have got my job without Teach First, because Teach First have got a really good relationship with PwC, so I didn't have to go through the whole recruitment process at PwC. I got, because they trusted Teach First recruitment, it meant that I could skip to the final interview stage, so that was a win. I don't really tell my colleagues that. I don't think that will go down very well. And then secondly, when I'm actually out at clients, I can really feel the difference between myself and other people that have come in straight from university, because nothing is going to be as scary as that year 10 class.
Yeah.
So whoever I'm talking to, no matter if they're like the CEO of Sony or whoever, it's not scary as it is as dealing with some people on some days. So I think it's really put that into perspective. And the same with stress levels. Like my job now, if I don't finish off the controls testing I'm doing, it's not going to be the end of the world. Whereas in school, there were days where you think, I want to get this done for these people, and that can be stressful. So it's a lot less stressful. But the biggest thing, I think, is being able to explain technical concepts in a non-technical way. And a huge part of any job, any IT or computer science related job, is can you sit in front of people and talk to them about whatever technology it is that you're using. And a lot of the people that I talk to are not necessarily technical people. So learning to explain things, which when you come from an IT background or you've got lots of technical knowledge already, it can be quite difficult to go down to that level and explain things well. Whereas when you talk what I'm saying year 7, what a server is, then I think you can break that down and speak to anyone about it. And that's been a lot of the feedback that I've had from my clients, that I am good at explaining things. And when I say, oh yeah, I used to be a teacher, then they go, oh, it all makes sense now. So yeah, I think, and all the normal things that you get from having 2 years experience in a proper job, like the amount of responsibility you have when you do Teach First far outweighs any other graduate program. You get to manage your own people. I ended up with a team and a form and all of those responsibilities. You're good at developing those relationships, handling conflict situations, all of those things that you use in any job, you do amplified in teaching across those 2 years. So I think you come out after the 2 years with a really good wide range of skills going forward.
Although I'm still on the program, I do a lot of extra stuff around Teach First. So both myself and Tom, when you were a participant last year, we did the local action networks and also national action networks. So that's an opportunity for you to contribute to the Teach First program as a whole. I've engaged with the policy network. I'm running a cross-phase project, helping primary schools in the local area with computer science. Yeah, it is. It gives you extra opportunities, and you get this network of people, and you get to meet extra people as well. And I think, compared for a PGCE at a university, which some people might be considering as well, you don't have that. Although it's challenging, you don't have that PGCE in the school. When you get to your NQT year as PGCE, you've gone to the school for the first time, whereas a Teach First participant, the second year is much easier because you've gone through all those processes already. And similarly, the networks, I've met a lot of people that I wouldn't have met had I not done Teach First.
And of course, everyone knows a server is someone who brings your food in a restaurant.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. Thank you.
I've had that for so long. I'm not listening to any either of you said since I came up with that joke. I'm only joking. It's very interesting. So you actually did start to touch on that there, but the next question we've been asked is, how did you find the progression at your school?
Well, I think, going into computer science specifically, I think we're very fortunate that, participants who are there now or are going to be coming there in the future, hopefully people watching, the department and the subject is undergoing a massive change. And so there is a huge demand, for STEM subjects in general, as you said earlier, but you know, there's a huge demand for computer science teachers in schools and the subject expertise. So going into that position, you know, I was fortunate that halfway through my second year, the head teacher called me in and gave me a promotion and made me in charge of the computer science curriculum, which is fantastic. But generally, you know, Teach First for some people, you know, as you can see in Rachel's case, it can be seen as a fast track because of the intensity of it, because you're in you know, challenging schools or schools with challenging circumstances, because you're having that year experience at the school with the PGCE before you go into AFT year. You know, you're at a much better place than those particular people in some ways because, you know, you've had hundreds more hours of teaching, you've managed whole classes yourself and been responsible for them and handled things like parents' evening and tracking, and you never have those experiences as a PGCE student. So, you know, I'm very fortunate that I've been able to get a promotion in my department, but, you know, looking around, if I had decided to go to another school next year, you know, there's so many schools crying out for our subject that it's a great time to get involved.
I think just on the progression thing, that I was really lucky as well. I was in a similar position to Sam, where I was subject lead by the end of during my second year. But I think it's an option, and I don't think you should worry about it if you don't want to be. Like, because you need to do it when it's ready, right, and ready for you. So if you come to the end of your first year, I don't think anyone wants to be a head of department by the end of the first year necessarily, because it's important to develop your teaching and to take the time doing that. So I think a lot of schools are very supportive in promoting you when it's right and ready for you.
Yeah.
So you can take that step up when you want. And with the way that schools work now, with like performance management systems, it's very much geared towards that. You can climb those ranks as quickly as suits you. So you can do it super fast, or you can take your time at different stages if you want to.
Well, I think it's interesting, isn't it, in a way, like Sam's saying, the paucity of subject specialists in your area means that both of you guys were promoted so quickly.
Definitely.
You know, out of necessity as much as, you know, undoubtedly you were hugely talented.
I mean, people see you and they're like, oh, you're a rare commodity, or you know, you're gold dust. Like, people appreciate the contribution you can have to the education sector. And there's also lots of other people, you know, that you can access on Twitter and places like that who are doing similar things, and, leading consultations and running sessions and you know, not just impacting their school, but also teachers and other people in other schools around as well.
And then this is one I think what a lot of people really worry about because it is like this sort of scary stuff. But how did you find, in particular, your first year on the programme?
Hills of happiness and valleys of deep.
Getting that bingo.
You're close to it.
Yeah, I guess I am close to it. It was hard. You know, we shouldn't scare away from that, but you know, that's why it's part of the challenge. It's a blur, I think. You go through repress those memories. No, you go through so much development in such a short space of time that it's hard to pin down, you know, key dates or key events. You know, you go from your first day with your classes or in the school where you have your introductory lesson, you're just like testing the waters. You know, before you know it, you're getting into the darkness of winter, which can be the long months, but you know, you're working so much, you've got the assignments to balance, you know, you're going to sessions and developing your pedagogy, and then you've got exam pressures coming up, you know, the timetable. So I didn't find it too bad. I mean, I had a great school and, you know, great mentoring support and the university tutors. As Rachel said, our university tutor was fantastic and came in and saw us, and you know, being observed. Some people get nervous about being observed, but it's such a good opportunity. You know, this year being observed less, I find that I'm missing it. You know, although there's the pressure of being observed, you know, having that critical feedback and being able to, you know, someone to come in and take your lesson and show you how you can improve it further to, you know, have more of an impact. You know, that's a fantastic opportunity. Yeah, it's difficult to pin down what happened.
You go through like a cycle, don't you? I mean, September, I felt sick every single day. I'm going to get told off now because I'm just going to be really honest. But September, and I was like, by the end of September, I'm going to start feeling sick and I'm going to start eating again because that will be good for me. By October, still felt sick. November, December, and I remember saying to my friend that I used to drive to work with, when am I going to stop feeling sick? And I think we realised by sort of June we don't feel sick anymore. And we're like, when did that happen? And you don't really know when that transition comes. But I think it's good to be nervous, because if you go into a school and you're like, it's all right, I've got teaching, I've got that sorted. You can't teach me anything, I know what I'm doing, then that is the wrong attitude. And you should feel sick because you don't know what you're doing. You've had some training, which is awesome, and the amount of time, but nothing can prepare you for that first day. And you go in and you give it a go, and you give it your best shot, and you'll get some feedback from the people that come in and observe you, and you'll reflect on it, and you will improve. And it's a cycle that takes time. So there are some really difficult times, because being told that a lesson you spent hours planning wasn't actually that great, or it got ruined because a bee flew into the room and all the kids went mental.
Oh, the bees.
Yeah. Everyone had that moment.
Had a pigeon once flew through the room.
That was a complete write-off. You know, those moments in teaching, it's not like any other job where now if I spend all night preparing for a client meeting, it's probably going to go quite well. Whereas in teaching, it's not like that. But you do get through it, and suddenly the dark days start getting outweighed by good days, and you feel that, and you see that progress in yourself. And I think one of my mentors used to say to me all the time, like, look how far you've come since September. Like, just reflect back and remember that. And it is a process. You can't go in thinking, I'm going to be amazing at this on day one. You're there to learn, and that's the right attitude to go in with. Like, it's a year, and my first year is going to be tough, but I'm going to learn a lot. And if you go in with that attitude, then it'll be a lot easier than if you think you're going to be an expert from day one.
And it helps you go forward. I think, you know, teaching is a learning job, and you're constantly developing. And I think, you know, some people maybe lose sight of that when, you know, a lot of older teachers. And so if you come in with that mentality and you keep progressing and keep wanting to progress, you know, it's going to help you excel and, you know, get into those higher positions and, you know, be an outstanding teacher.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing, is getting used to not being great at something straight away. And there's an interesting thing you talked about, a cycle. And
we're on to cold now.
Is it cold? No, it's not a reflective cycle. It was talking about sort of transitions of where you're at. It was basically about how you start off and you're unconsciously incompetent, then you're consciously competent. Then you're consciously incompetent.
That's the worst.
That's it. That's
when you're like, I know I'm terrible.
So you start off, you don't realise you're rubbish, then you realise you're rubbish, then you have to think about it all the time that you're half decent, and then finally you don't have to think about it and you're good.
Yeah.
And it is definitely a cycle like that. I remember loving my first half term. And then it was only when I got to Christmas that I realised I really didn't know what I was doing.
I was like, well, this went really well. They all sat down and listened. And they're my friends. They were all really nice to me. And then by Christmas, they were all horrible because I'd let them get away with too much, and it was awful. And there's that moment where you're like, oh my God, I'm so far away from where I should be.
And I think it's that thing in the second year when you actually start and you don't make all those little mistakes again.
Yeah.
And suddenly, you know, it just all starts to, like you say, come together, and that feeling,
it's a really, like, even now, like, I've been out of the classroom for a while, but now I still get that little, like, oh yeah, I remember that felt really good. That's a good feeling. It's a good moment in my life.
And there's things like your lesson planning. You know, a lesson will take more time to plan than it will to teach at the start, and then eventually, you know, you become efficient, you know what's good, you know what works for your classes, and you can get, you know, in a spare hour, you can get 2 or 3 done potentially.
Absolutely.
And it's also, you can sometimes work yourself up. You know, not every lesson is going to be perfect, even if you're an outstanding teacher. It's not physically possible. So sometimes it's prioritising. You know, it's working out what is the most important things. What can I maybe leave out? What can I come back to later? And just managing those different intricacies, I guess.
We've got 2 similar questions that have come through now. So one is from someone who's a father. In fact, now 25% of people who apply to the programme or get a place are career changers. We see lots and lots of people changing across. I'm sure you guys would have met someone you're curriculum. There you go. And who's worried about relocating. And I think just to say now, and we will cover a bit about this in the application section, but for ICT, we only place in London and the West Midlands. For situations where you do have a family and you own a house and property and things like that, then those kinds of things are factored in when relocation is taking place in terms of extenuating circumstances. So it is something that is borne in mind. But this person also says they're worried about the curriculum and whether or not they'll be used to it, especially if they've been out of education for a while. And this links to a second question, which is talking about preparing for planning for lessons. Is there anything they could look at in the meantime to try and sort of get them up to speed, or anything they can think about now that would help them maybe?
national curriculum's online, so get on there, have a look at it. I didn't realise that it was online before I started teaching, and then it became like my homepage on my computer. But yeah, the national curriculum's online. Get on there. There's nothing wild or scary in there. But obviously, different, especially in IT, different schools teach a broad range of things.
Very different.
But remember, like, you're going to be teaching GCSE and maybe possibly A level. It's only up to a certain level of expertise. So I'm guessing you're thinking of teaching IT because either A, you're interested in it, or B, you've done a degree or an A level in it. It's not going to be any more complex than that. So don't worry about that level of subject knowledge. Like we said before, there's so much support for subject knowledge. But yeah, CAS, which is competing at schools, they've got loads of resources on their website. There's a range of resources available online, but I would, my starting point for anybody who's new to it, have a look at the national curriculum, have a read through the areas, go on the BBC Bitesize website and do, or download off the OCR or AQA websites the exam papers.
Exam papers.
Give them a go.
The different exam boards.
The mark schemes are all on there, the exam papers are on there.
It's difficult to say to you, oh yeah, if you've got a spare few months now, plan a scheme of work and plan all your lessons, because you'll realise that until you go through that training process, you'll probably have to go back and redo them. But yeah, I think the important part is just to read around the subject. If if you're interested about it and you know about it and you can contextualise it to the real world, you've generally got most of the sort of basics down. And if it comes to you get in and your school has no resources and you're panicking, I'm sure Rachel, I'd happily
just help us, just get in touch with us.
There's loads of people who can help you out with that. And Teach First. In your summer institute, one of the focuses of computer science is the subject knowledge. Like, they know that not everyone is a computer science graduate, and that's okay. And so there's a lot of support in that area.
And we've got a really good, like, me and Sam know each other because we're part of the network of IT teachers and ambassadors, and like, we were literally having a conversation before we went on that about like me coming into Sam's school and helping, do bits like that. So that's just how our network works. It's not like a formal process where you have to apply for them to ask for help. Like, we're just a group of friends who've all done a similar thing, so that sounds really cheesy.
We would, all of us are here today because we're ambassadors or participants and we want to, contribute. So we're not, getting paid for it or anything. So,
I won't Teach First.
That's true. So I think it's, there are people out there, and you're not going to be alone. It's not like you're going to be the only one going in on the first day going, I don't know anything about ICT or computer science.
And actually now through the community website as well, they have set up specific sort of resource sharing things for different subjects as well. So that, there's a huge number of people you can draw on. And in fact, that the real benefit of the Ambassador Network actually is the fact that even though you've now left the classroom, Rachel, you can come back, like you're saying, to go and visit Sam to inspire his students and tell them about your experience and get them thinking about what they're going to do with the qualifications they're doing with him when they leave.
Which is something we do regularly, and like, so the guys that are in their first year, I Teach First at the moment, I was the associate tutor and helped them out in the Joint Summer Institute this year, and we have a WhatsApp group and they ask me for resources and support and help all the time, and that's been so nice, that little network. And it's on a Sunday night when I've maybe not had work to do, I've like called them up and checked in with them and helped them out, and that's been like really good for me to keep in touch with the classroom, but good for them as well, showing the expertise, and I've put them in touch with different people to help.
I'm actually going to be associate tutor this year, Summer Institute. So one thing I would say in terms of if you do want to practice your subject knowledge, get practicing some coding. It doesn't have to be anything significant. It could be Code Academy or using Python.com. Python seems to be quite a big language at the moment, but there are lots of tutorials and resources online. But in order to teach code, there is an element of you should, at least practice it so you can know what sort of things will come up. And that's something that you can do now. You don't have to worry about replanning it or it not going to plan. You'll learn how to teach it, but as long as you can practice that now, that's something you could do.
The other thing to say as well is that if you successfully apply to Teach First, you are sent a large amount of preparation work, which kind of supports your study. I don't remember if you guys remember getting that, which is more kind of generally, but not intimidating, very interesting. In order to kind of prepare you for the classroom, which is more kind of pedagogically focused. If you're worried more about kind of behaviour management and sort of classroom structuring and that sort of thing, that really kind of forms that part. So I think these guys have given you a really good rundown there of how you could improve your ICT skills, but certainly you're kind of given a lot of preparation in terms of general pedagogy before you start.
And there's sessions throughout the whole year on stuff like that as well. Like, they don't expect you to be the best at behavioural, management or assessment for learning or differentiation. Going through that first year, that's where the rapid development comes from, because you go and study all these things.
Could you talk a little bit on, sort of either of you, about the actual support that you get within school, rather than, because you've mentioned sort of university lecturers and those sorts of things, but the specific kind of in-school support that you receive?
So I'm going to get all the names wrong. Will you help me with this? So there's
your professional mentor.
So you have a professional mentor in school who is there to support you on a personal level, on your development, on your journey, on the leadership development program, and they're normally a teacher that have got maybe 3 to 4 years experience in the classroom, or maybe
possibly subject. SLT, maybe a senior leadership team.
Mine was an assistant head.
Yeah, so it depends. Some schools do it. Someone who's recently not newly qualified, but qualified in the last 5 years, so they remember what it's like training, or someone who's more senior within the school, because it's good to have those networks within school, to support you. And I think I had like bi-weekly meetings with that person, and it works differently in every school. And then you also have a subject mentor who is, God, I'm so bad at these terminologies. So your subject mentor is someone within your department who is an expert in your subject, who's there to support you, and they'll come in and observe you, as well as support your general development. And my subject mentor was my lifeline. Like he kept me going for it. He used to take me for a burger on a Friday if I had a bad week. But no, he kept me going throughout it. And he really helped me subject knowledge wise and stuff. But that's like your official support in schools, and then you've got the teacher first support, and they come in and help and do all sorts of other things. But I had massive amounts of support from my department and from my actual school. People who are teachers because they're good, nice people who enjoy teaching, and that means they normally enjoy helping other people. So there was no one in my school, if I turned up at their door and said, can you just look at this lesson with me, because I really don't know what I'm doing with it, nobody would have turned me away. And that was awesome about working in a school. It's something that I really appreciate now I'm out of. And in industry, it's very different world out there, to being able to literally turn to anybody and say, have you got 5 minutes? Can we sit down and have a cup of tea, because I'm not sure about this? And most people will help you. And if not, if you take them chocolate, most teachers will do. Pretty much.
You're taking me chocolate.
Yeah,
I think that's a really good point. Everyone's in it for the same reason, for the same goal, so everyone supports each other. Maybe in the industry it's a bit more competitive. Rachel summarised it perfectly there, but even this year, going into my second year, you have to have an NQT mentor as part of the NQT program, but I still have my professional mentor and my subject mentor, who I see on bi-weekly meetings. And so that's really good. I've still got those links, and I've have my NQT mentor as well. So although maybe the support from the university and from Teach First has been slightly withdrawn in the second year, I've still got really good networks within the school.
That's all been very useful, interesting, and insightful. I've just been given the 5-minute warning by my producer. So let's finish with some more interesting questions that will allow you to tell us funny stories. Tell us what one thing do you wish you had known before you started the program?
Ask for help. You are not an expert. You are new. And I had a lot of pride before I started teaching, and now I don't have so much. So when you start teaching, you are like, oh, I've got to be an expert at this. I've got to be the best. I can't be seen to be upset because this has happened, or be concerned about this, or not be coping. And there will be days that are really tough, and the kids will be crazy, and you don't quite know what's gone wrong, and it might just be because it's windy and rainy, or there's a pigeon in the classroom, or whatever's happened will happen. But go to whoever it is, whoever you trust within that school, and say, can you please help me? And they will, but they will expect you to be doing that, and the school will be concerned if you're not doing that. And I think for my first month or so, I was very much like, oh, I can't ask for help. I don't want to put on anyone else. Everyone's really stressed. Everyone's under pressure. I don't want to do that. And I wish I'd been more upfront and been like, you know what, I am learning, I'm new, and I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do this, so can you help me, please?
I think one of the things that lots of people tell you is no smiles till Christmas, and obviously you need to be really, really strict, with the kids. And I think people, that's a bit extreme, but I also appreciate why people tell you that, because I think if you come in a little bit soft, if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. Not in the case of they're throwing chairs or anything like that, but just sometimes you get this relationship where they'll sometimes push the boundaries, and maybe being affiliative means that you sort of accept complacency a bit more. And when you want high standards and you want all your kids to maximise their potential, irrelevant of who they are, you just need to make sure that yes, you have great relationships with them, and that's something that I feel I'm really strong at. But at the same time, they know where that line is. And in my first year, maybe I got that slightly wrong. Yeah. And so going into my second year, that was something I made sure that the students knew when I was serious and when they could, have a joke. But ultimately, they are there to learn and they're there to achieve. And they're not your friends. It's great that you have a good relationship with them, and it's great they might look up to you. But ultimately, if they don't succeed, you've kind of let yourself down and them down. So you've got to draw that line.
It's really good. What's the funniest thing that ever happened to you at school?
That's hard. I've had lots. Just general interaction with kids. Kids are funny people.
Hilarious.
They're really funny.
A lot funnier than my clients. So.
I think.
Do you want to tell the story?
You had a good story, basically.
Okay,
Tell us your story.
So one of my pupils used to arrive at my lesson. I don't know whether it was personal to me or IT or maybe just the classroom environment that I was teaching in, but it encouraged him. I didn't encourage him. The surrounding area encouraged him to take his clothes off. So he was in year 9, and he would arrive at my lesson, start singing "I'm Sexy and I Know It," and literally the tie would be coming off on the way down the corridor. I'd hear the first few lines of this song as he was walking along, then the collar and all down the shirt, and he was like shimmying as he was doing this, and I was like, I remember the first time I was doing it, I was absolutely irate. I was like, this is completely inappropriate. Like, I can't do this. I don't know who you are. I don't know why you're naked. Please put some clothes on. Move yourself from my classroom. And he did this week in, week out, like literally. And I would have behaviour support. We had a behaviour support team in the school. And I'd literally be like, can you come up to the classroom because he's going to do it again? And they'd be like, Rachel, you've got to have high expectations of these pupils. Maybe this week's the week that you won't do it. No, week in, week out, you do this. And there was a whole process and reasoning behind why he was doing this. And we sat down and did some restorative practice and talked about it and got to a point where he remained dressed for a full lesson. That was probably
success.
But I remember sitting down with my leadership development officer from Teach First, and they were saying, what's your vision of a perfect classroom? And it was just after I taught this boy, and I was like, it would be great if my pupils could keep their clothes on. And she looked at me like, I think I need to call for some support. So I didn't quite know what to do about it. But yeah, that was always great.
I've got a lot of funny moments, but I can't picture some of them. There's some that, sometimes when you shouldn't laugh and you really want to.
Oh God,
I had one recently that was just quite funny because it made me look like a bit of an idiot, which is always fun. So 2 of the girls in my computer science year 9 class, really trying to push the girls to do computer science at GCSE, and they'd just chosen their options, and I went over and sort of said, oh, have you chosen it? And they were like, no, so we decided not to. I was like, what? I thought, I was convinced that you were going to do it. You're so good, you've really come on, and you really enjoy the subject. And they were like, no, so we decided to do ICT. And I was like, I was trying to be humble, like, well, ICT is still a good subject. It's not my subject, but it's okay. And they kept this up for a whole lesson, and then on the way out, sort of went, oh, sir, we were just joking, we are doing it, and sort of ran out. And so I was, I'd been sort of set up hook, line, and sinker, which is quite funny, for them, and they found it funny. But yeah, I've got loads of stories, just students saying funny things.
Yeah.
My computer scientists just getting their memes and hashtags and all their pop culture references to computer science into the lesson, which is always fun. Adds a bit of
you learn like a whole new language as well. Like this lesson is dead is bad,
yeah.
but this lesson is dark is amazing.
Snake, pagan.
Yeah.
Oh, we call them pagan. We talk about historical, so they're calling them a pagan. Do you understand what a pagan is? Do you understand what the epistemology of that word is? They've got no idea, they don't care, but it sounds good when they say it at the time. Guys, we've been asked to wrap it up there. I would just like to say thank you so much to Rachel and Sam for giving us their time this evening, and thank you also for all of your questions as well. We're now going to spend a little bit of time talking about the application process, but if you guys could sort of should we wait to
Thank you.
I'm sure everyone's applauding at home. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Good luck.
Brilliant. So we've had a number of questions that have come in throughout that are regarding the application process itself. So I'm going to just go through a few of those. So one of the questions says, can I apply now for next year? Yes, you can. Applications for 2015, so starting summer institutes in June, are still open and will be open until around the end of April. I would encourage you, if you're considering applying, to open an application as soon as possible. When's the best time to apply? Is the next question. Now. Apply now. Apply now. As soon as possible is the best possible time. Throughout the entire application process, you'll be guided through each stage by members of our graduate recruitment team. If you're even considering applying, I would advise you to go onto the website, have a look through the information, and open an application form. Once you've opened an application form, you'll receive a call from a member of the graduate recruitment team who will chat to you, talk to you a bit about your interests in Teach First, kind of support you in finding out a bit more about the program, and then also will give you structured advice on how you go about completing the application form effectively. So you'll be given that support throughout each stage of the process. What support is available to me during the application process? Can I talk to anyone? Yes, we've got a whole team who are dedicated to supporting you, as I say. So we have people who will phone you up to talk to you about your experiences, to help you think about how you might go about structuring those effectively to fill in the application form. So you get an awful lot of human contact. Teach First is the biggest graduate recruiter in all of the UK. We recruit more people than anyone else. We carry out more assessment centres than anyone else. We are the market leading graduate recruiter in this country. So the support that you gain will be unrivaled. Will you be disadvantaged if you don't have much experience in schools? Interestingly, no, you won't, despite the fact that we are a teaching company or a teaching charity. And what we actually assess on is competency. So if you go on our website, you can see the various competencies we look at, and they involve things like leadership, humility, respect, and empathy. And humility, respect, and empathy is often where teaching skills have come into the equation, but actually it can be within any context. And what we're looking for is your ability to work effectively with people from different backgrounds to yourself, and that could be in a capacity as a carer, working with the elderly. It could be working with people with disabilities. It could be in any number of different sort of areas. It doesn't have to be teaching necessarily. So no. The UCAS requirement is 300 UCAS points. I don't have 300 UCAS points, so can I still apply? You will, if you apply with under 300 UCAS points, we will look at extenuating circumstances. So if there are particular reasons why you haven't received that many, then yes, you can, but you need to sort of make a very strong application. I've never been to an assessment day. Do you offer any support in preparing for this? Yes, we do. Much like the application form, you'll receive a call. So if you're at University of Oxford, if you get through to assessment centre, then I will be the person who calls you to talk you through about the assessment day. There's also an awful lot of information about exactly what you face on the day online. It takes you through the structure of the day. You can see various advice there. So feel free, but I'll be on hand to talk to you if you get to that stage, or one of my colleagues, depending on which university you're at. What preparation does Teach First have you after you do have an offer? So once you've received your offer, your graduate recruitment officer then is responsible for supporting you throughout the time that the offer is made and when you start Summer Institute. So we will meet with you regularly to discuss your progress. You will have to carry out various requirements, such as a QTS test and qualified teacher tests, which are maths and science based, which all teachers have to take, so you'll be required to do those. There's something called a curriculum knowledge assessment, which is designed to help you in looking through where you stand kind of currently with your knowledge in relation to the subject you've been asked to teach. So for example, with computer sort of computing. It would be looking at where the gaps are. So it's designed to help you identify that and support you in preparing for when you start Summer Institute. And your recruitment officer is responsible for supporting you through that. When does the Summer Institute start? The Summer Institute this year starts on the 21st of June and ends on the 1st of August. So that's the 6 weeks period that you'll be training prior to starting teaching. And I have some more questions going on the board. If my application is successful, how long till assessment centre? So currently the turnaround is probably around 2.5 weeks. So if the assessment process is quite fast here. If you open an application, you'll receive a call probably within 24 to 48 hours to talk to you about how you go about filling in your application form. Once your application form has been successful, you will then go on to assessment centre within about 2.5 weeks. Once you've had your assessment centre, you will find out in 5 working days whether or not you have a place on the cohort. So if you applied now, in fact, I've been asked to recap the entire process, so let me do that now. The process involves open an application form. If you go onto the website and open an application form, you will receive a call from a member of the graduate recruitment team. That member of the graduate recruitment team will then talk to you and explain how to go about filling in an application form effectively. Once you've filled in your application form and submitted it, you will either be successful and you will be invited to assessment centre, or you will receive an email letting you know you've not been successful. If you are successful and you get off the place at assessment centre, you will then be contacted by a member of the graduate recruitment team who will talk to you about how best to go about preparing for the assessment centre. Once you have been to assessment centre, which is a whole day involving various activities, I won't go into detail now, information's on the website. Once you've been to the assessment centre, within 5 days, you will have found out whether or not you've been successful, and you will receive your offer to start on the cohorts. Once you've gone through that process, there's various onboarding, so as I said, your curriculum knowledge assessments, your QTS tests, reference checks and things like that. And once you've gone through that process, you'll be fully enrolled. Once you've been fully enrolled, you'll go into the next round of regional allocation. This is when you'll find out where you've been placed. As I say, for ICT, you can either be in London or the West Midlands. You may all state preference in advance, but ultimately we place you where the need is greatest. If you do have extenuating circumstances, so for example, we had a question earlier from someone who had a family, obviously that will be factored in, and at every stage really we appreciate flexibility, but we also appreciate that people do have commitments, and those are taken into account. Once you've been regionally allocated, you will be contacted to let you know. And then you fill in a form called your PIF, which is like a personal CV that you fill in with Teach First that contains a lot of kind of additional information. Once you take that information, once that's all filled out, that is then distributed to different schools, and they use that in your allocation process. And I think Sam mentioned there about extracurricular experience. So my PIF, I wrote down that I've been a captain of a cricket team at university, and when I turned up on my first day at my school, they said, "Oh, thank you very much, can you please captain the cricket team?" So it's really nice, it's kind of a very human process. I have 1 minute left there. I see we are now down past that minute. Thank you very much for listening. This will be available on YouTube to download. The link will be emailed out to you. So if there's anything you missed, I know I've been speaking very, very quickly to fit everything in the last 30 seconds. If you missed anything, you want to hear anything again, or hear either of our wonderful speakers, please just follow that link once it's been emailed. Have a very nice evening. Thank you, and goodbye.